pricing your house, coming up with that price, I guess if you stage it, you can price it more. If you don't stage it, maybe you get an incorrect pricing. So I think as a home seller, that's something that's top of mind. How much should I price my house to begin with? So what do you have to share with us, Wei?
Yeah. When it comes to pricing, I would say that's one of the most important thing that can literally sell the property, have it sit on the market for a long time. I think the main thing is when a seller is listing their home, they're looking at it from the seller's perspective. And at the end of the day, it's what can I get the most for my home? But usually when we talk to a seller, we explain to them, you have to look at it from the buyer's perspective because, when you list your home very high, what that ends up doing is because you have that first 2 week window period where it's that golden period, you're getting the most attraction for the home. And if you don't utilize that, if you're overpricing your home, buyers nowadays, they're very savvy. They have a bunch of information. So when you list your home really high, they're comparing your property to other homes that are currently on the market right now. And if you're listing your home really high, and all the other homes that are in that price range are a lot better, the home's going to be on the bottom of their list. So with that being said, you want to utilize that first 2 week window period of getting the most exposure for your home. Most of the time when it comes to pricing your home incorrectly, it's pricing it way too high versus way too low. Because when you price it way too low, what you end up doing is you get a bunch of buyers to the property, you get a bunch of interest. And then usually, with competition, what that creates is one, a fear of missing out for most buyers. And then number two is now you're creating this, it's kind of like buyer psychology where a lot of buyers, they feel like they have to beat out all the other buyers because this is the property. That mixed with, preparing the home, making sure that you prepare the correct way. At the end of that 2 week period, and what we do is usually we do an open house, right? Within that first weekend, we have as many people come in as much as possible. They're seeing the other buyers waiting in line. So what that does is it creates that sense of competition, that sense of urgency. And then usually after the first week, second week, that's when a bunch of offers are going to be coming in. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to get the seller the highest price for their home.
I think this is actually a really good topic. I'm curious. With you guys, we speak with sellers all the time. But we do have some of those sellers who are like, look, there's no inventory out there in the marketplace. Let's just go as high as possible and see what we can get, and we're getting to a point. I feel like there are some sellers that are just throwing out some obscene numbers. How do you guys feel about taking even a listing like that where the numbers are so far off from what reality really is, but because of this crazy marketplace, maybe somebody might fetch it? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
For me, I think with this market right now, you have to utilize, it being a seller's market, right? Right, it's a seller's market. You have to utilize the market right now. And with it being said, when you list your home way too high, you lower your leverage, right? When a home sits on the market for too long, by the time you find that buyer who is willing to pay for the property, at this point, the buyer has a leverage now because they know that you're not getting a lot of attention. And 9 times out of 10, they're gonna try to negotiate the price down.
Yeah. No, I always like to have 20 offers, even though it's a lot of work for us compared to negotiating with just one offer. There was even one property. We see properties coming onto the market all the time. And sometimes you see one that gets listed and you're like, why is this listed for so low? There's that one in South Pass, remember? It was listed so low and it created so much traffic. And it ended up selling for, I believe, 1.3 million, 1.3 million more than the actual list price of the property. But that was probably automatically listed, I want to say 500,000 below what it was supposed to be listed for. So that's like a really good example of, going really low on a price and getting a ton of people come through the door. And then all of a sudden you have people bidding on top of each other. I mean, that one probably maybe was one of the super anomalies that we've seen as of late, but that's a really good example of, pricing low versus pricing high,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, to go back to your question, Kevin, about pricing high, I agree with what Wei was saying, actually. Like, you do lose a ton of leverage if you do price high. And, this market, I will admit, is unpredictable, right? I mean, like, pricing high, who knows? Sometimes you might get the number that you're looking for. But at the same time, what I've noticed is that if you price high and it sits on and it goes past that, 2-week window, because every other home is selling for 7 days or less, people start asking questions, right?
Exactly.
You start going back and, right when they call that listing agent, they're like, well, how come it's been sitting on for 15, 20 days? Which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things is not a lot, but in this market, it's going to seem like relatively a lot. People start to ask questions and they kind of wonder, okay, like, is it price, or is it like, is something wrong with the house? Is there a reason why you guys aren't getting any offers and stuff like that? So people really question it. Which, in the contrary, and I think this is where we typically advise our sellers, is to, try to come in at the market value, what we deem as kind of market value, or maybe slightly under, to kind of create that bidding war. But at that point, there's just so much more interest that, buyers can get easily caught up in that competition. And that's when, we start to see these, like, really outrageous numbers that are, at the end of the day, netting the sellers like way more than a lot of times that they even predicted to begin with.